listening to
A to the K.
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 A to the K Wrestle Talk Podcast.
Check it out. Change your life. You'll be thanking me later.
Hello and welcome back to A to the K's Wrestle Talk, a podcast where each week we bring you our thoughts, discussions, reviews, and all other fun things on the world of wrestling entertainment. I am the Lunatic Fringe, Anthony, and my co-host, he is the Funkasaurus. It's Carl.
That's me. I'll tell you what, somebody call my mama and tell her that tonight's podcast is going to shock the world because we are none other than the Shockmasters, A to the K. And boy, do we have a hell of a botch to talk to you about tonight.
Oh.
Shockmaster 2.0. I think it may be better than the original Shockmaster botch.
It's got to be. I feel so sorry for him, and we'll get onto it, guys. But yeah, it was a good night for botches. Depending on how you look at some were fucking horrendous.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we're here for another week. Obviously, as always, we have our Ringside report, which we'll be getting onto shortly, in which we're going to talk about all the news and rumours that have come up in the world of wrestling this week. We'll be following on with This Week in Wrestling, in which we'll talk about the big four shows that last week's essentially now. And then our Seg 3, or our unique segment, is going to be covering the All Out pay-per-view, and there is a lot to talk about with that. And after that, hopefully next week, I don't think we've got any pay-per-views because we've been very pay-per-view heavy the last 4 weeks. So we'll be looking at a more unique segment next week. Maybe, I think we did have something planned. What did we have planned, Carl? Let's have a look.
Something about gimmick matches or something?
That's it. We're going to be looking at the best and worst gimmick matches next week. So you've got that to look forward to. But this week, it's going to be covering All Out. Now, some of you who are in the know, who've seen the pay-per-view, will be well aware that there are some difficult situations that All Out ran into, let's say. And we will be covering that. But whilst they are very, very newsworthy, we're going to be covering the whole pay-per-view. So anyone who's listening to the Ringside Report now, is listening to me talk now, and just wants to know about basically the botches and the issues that All Out had. We won't be covering it in the Ringside Reports, but we will be covering it under the All Out section. So, if you're looking through and you don't want to listen to me talk about the news, we'll fine then. Skip ahead. So, we'll move on to the Ringside Report then. So, coming up tonight, that's a Carl. I'm not even giving you the option. I'm doing it this week.
I know, yeah, jeez.
Coming up tonight, we have WWE making changes to their brand draft that they hold every year. We have NXT potentially moving away from Wednesday nights. We have Vince McMahon telling superstars that they can't engage with third parties. We have WWE owning John Cena's name. We have the Authors of Pain being released by WWE. We have WWE teasing a new star with the mystery legs that we saw on SmackDown. We'll get onto that. We have WWE sort of confirming a push for Naomi. We have, I say WWE a lot, but it's all about them. WWE being unhappy with Lana again. We have some more trademarks, but these ones hint at a potential spoiler for the new Firefly Funhouse character. We have AEW announcing their date for their next pay-per-view, Full Gear. We have AJ Styles revealing that he tested positive for COVID, which in itself, there you go, that's the news, but we'll get a bit more detail on that. And then lastly, we have Marty Jannetty killed a guy.
I feel so bad, laughing about it when we're saying it.
I know. Anyone who's like, why is that funny? We mentioned it a few weeks back. It just stays in the news now. But if you want to know about the crazy life of Marty Jannetty, it was covered about 3 weeks ago on the Ringside Report. So the first one, Carl, which sort of leans into what you're going to talk about shortly as well. But WWE have announced that they're making changes to the way that they conduct the I always go to call it brand splits or whatever, but the draft that they now hold every year that they've renamed the Superstar Shakeup, whatever you want to call it.
Oh God, it's cringe, isn't it?
And to be honest, in its essence, what they're suggesting is that whereas normally in previous years NXT weren't involved really, other than going, oh, hey, they're there. You know, when we had Finn Balor suddenly being drafted and so on, you never really saw stars get drafted to NXT. They were always pulled from NXT as the developmental promotion. In fact, last year, as an example, we saw the Street Profits being taken from NXT, but you don't really see anyone go the other way. The suggestion here with the change is that what they're going to be doing is treating them more like another brand, which is what they've been trying to push for the last few years, really, saying, look, they're not just a developmental promotion, they are another brand, they are on par with the other two. Not really, but they are. And this is another step to treating them that way. So the suggestion is going to be that they're going to be just as involved in the draft, and therefore you may see some A-list WWE talents moving over. I don't know how likely this is. Are we going to see Drew McIntyre suddenly on NXT defending the WWE title? Who knows? But the suggestion is that it's going to have a lot more heavy involvement with NXT. Now, Carl, this is one of these things that for me, and it might be a good time for you to move into yours as well, but for me, this feels like potentially a response to the ongoing ratings battle with AEW. So I'll let you go into yours because they kind of both tie in together with that speculative thought.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, my one, the first one is NXT are potentially now going to be moving away from Wednesday nights. So as we know, the Wednesday Night Wars have been a thing of interest, shall we say, over the past weeks and months. Obviously, Jericho, the demo god, making light of the fact that they're beating them definitely in the demos, especially the 18 to whatever it is, 18 to 35,
18 to 49. It's like quite a big
18 to
demographic
49.
In all fairness.
Yeah, so they're definitely beating them in those kind of demos, but they're actually pretty much beating them in terms of total viewers as well, like pretty consistently now. So I know that they moved the episode this week. I think it was due to basketball or something like that.
Yeah, the NBA is back on, isn't it? I think it is in relation to that.
Yeah, so I think they moved it to the Tuesday night because of a clash with NBA, and the rating that they did was actually a lot better than people thought. So I think this has kind of sparked a bit of, well, why would we run it on a Wednesday in competition with AEW when we could get more of a share of the audience in the demo if we were to actually swap nights? So
yeah, I mean, there's some suggestion. I don't know if it's part of what you're going to say, Carl. So apologies for jumping on it. There's some suggestion that the decision might even be out of WWE's hands, and it might be USA Network, themselves, who are going to go. No, we are we are losing viewers, and we can gain viewers. So why wouldn't we do that? Which is an interesting one because I don't know contractually what sticking power WWE have got. Typically, you wouldn't be able to say when your time slot is. Shows get moved all the time, so I don't think they might have that kind of throw. I don't know, but I mean, you can't deny it. I mean, Jericho, quite interestingly, come out not in his typical demo god kind of persona and having a pop. He even said, like, they don't have to fight over the same viewership. It makes sense for them to move. AEW aren't going to move. They're definitely not going to move. They're adamant. But I mean, why, from a business point of view, other than Vince being a massively petty man,
you've got to think though as well. Like, there's a little bit of tongue in cheek from Jericho. That it's like, yeah, I think they should move. In other words, like, I think you should admit defeat. And we have. I mean,
in all fair, as much as people like to defend NXT and there likes to be a lot of talks and people really jump on it when NXT do better in their overall numbers, they've either been neck and neck or tipped by AEW quite consistently. So they're not exactly on the winning side of this, in all fairness.
No, and I think the point you made about USA Network as well, I think ultimately it will come down to them. They're the one who control the time slot. They're the ones who are in control of the show, and if they see an opportunity to get more viewers on their channel and better kind of advertising and stuff like that, then absolutely they're going to do it. So I think these numbers from the past Tuesday, could legitimately see that being the case and then moving. But I think to harp back onto your point, do we really believe that they are going to move some kind of A grade stars,
A-list,
B+ players? Do you think they are going to move some of the main kind of main event stars over to NXT if they do move time slots? Because I think at the minute,
one
if
of
they
them,
do that, it's probably directly competing with AEW.
I think the draft will, because they want to make it seem like a bigger thing, and because they have made this declaration that the draft's going to be different this year. I think they're going to make a point of moving some people over that are big enough names, but not a problem. Similar to when SmackDown was bought by Fox, or put on Fox, and they moved a load of stars over to sort of bolster SmackDown up to for Fox's sake. For fuck's sake. And I think it might be a similar tactic where they go, well, we'll move some people over to draw that attention, but it's not it's realistically, it's not going to be Roman Reigns, and it's not going to be Michael McIntyre. It's not going to be these sort of people. I realistically, and I'm not saying this because I don't like his character, I realistically think you could see the likes of like Baron Corbin, who's a big enough name, but it's not really going to be a problem if he goes. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Can I also just kind of point out that like something hilarious that I don't think you noticed then? You said Michael McIntyre, which I would love to see him in NXT. If I'm honest.
That is fantastic. Yeah, I did not pick up on that. As you all know, Michael McIntyre is currently the WWE champion.
You can see him in HD TV. He's not HD ready.
Well spotted, Carl. Well
amazing.
Spotted.
Amazing.
That's fair. I mean, they are related. It's an easy mistake to make.
Well, exactly. Drew McIntyre looks just like a white Asian man.
I mean, no offense to either of you. I'm going to apologize to Drew for that, because I was trying to talk about Drew. But no offense to anyone. You're both great in your own fields.
This just in: A to the K Wrestle Talk podcast defends Michael McIntyre.
Oh dear. So it's a night of botches all around.
Love it. I legit don't know whether they are going to follow through with this. If they move nights, I can't see them taking any of the bigger stars. Especially the levels of Michael McIntyre, and putting them on NXT. I think if they do that, it's a direct kind of reaction to the kind of Wednesday Night Wars, in my opinion. So I don't think they would care enough about NXT if it wasn't competing to actually do that. I think the only reason they care about it is because they don't want to lose the war.
Yeah. I think it might be a little bit chicken and egg then in some senses, because like WWE have remained somewhat silent on the Wednesday night thing. So like there's no suggestion that they're definitely moving. It's just heavily speculated, especially with the success they've had with this Tuesday and potentially the next Tuesday coming. I think they're on again. But I mean, let's say they get to the draft split and there's still no move on the channel, then we could see some drastic changes before that happens. But I do take your point that if one happens before the other, then it might be the case that there isn't much of a change up really.
Yeah. Do we know when it's actually planned to be?
Well, again, they have not officially given a date, but they reckon for the draft. I keep saying draft split. There's no split happening for the superstar draft. They reckon it's October because it took place October last year. So they reckon consistency wise, it's probably going to be October again. And the talk, it's going to happen. It's going to happen this year. It's going to be great. But we don't know. As for the obviously changing channels, all still speculation at the moment. So there's no suggestion of how soon or what they'd want to do with that really. But again, it could be the channel just turns around and goes, "You did well on Tuesday. You're staying there."
Yeah.
So the next one, Carl. As a lot of you might know, some of you people, you fanboys out there, might enjoy watching Saraya Knight on Twitch, or Selena Vega on Twitch, or you might have had a cameo from Lexi Kaufman or various other WWE stars. I know we certainly have had some cameos here and there, Carl. So, these are all great things, and it bolsters a little bit of money for the superstars, and they are independent contractors after all, Carl. Now, unfortunately, Vince McMahon, in his infinite wisdom, has sent a letter out to I think pretty much all the stars, and a brief quote from it saying that some of you are engaged with outside third parties using your name and likeness in ways that are detrimental to our company. It is imperative that these activities be terminated within the next 30 days by Friday, October 2nd. Continued violations will result in fines, suspensions, or termination at WWE's discretion. Now, the first thing I want to mention is how careful a lot of these stars have been. If you go to Cameo other than certain people, like you go to Cameo, you see Big E, he's down there as Big E. But the likes of Alexa Bliss is down as Lexi Kaufman, with, mention that she is Alexa Bliss, but Lexi Kaufman essentially. And surprisingly, still a WWE star. I actually thought she was a free agent at this point, but Paige is down as Soraya Knight on a Twitch and so on like that. So a lot of them have been careful to, not all of them, but a lot of them have been careful to use their real names, so they're not affecting the intellectual property of WWE, WWE owning the fake names. But Vince is adamant that despite the fact that these are independent contractors and are not employees of WWE, their contract allows him to say, no, you'll do what I tell you to do and nothing else. And to me, these are minor, small, little things. Like, all due respect to Cameo and all due respect to Switch, this isn't like, one of them's ran off and got a deal with Pepsi, and WWE are not even a part of it. There's no, like, they've got a whole sponsorship. He's rocking up with Nikes every day on WWE programming because they're paying him. It's not that kind of thing. This is just them making a bit of extra cash, especially during the pandemic when they couldn't even be on the show. But yeah, apparently Vince has said no, and a lot of stars are not happy. Two notable mentions was Kevin Nash went on Twitter and basically said, and again, I'm paraphrasing because I don't know the exact tweet, but he essentially said, if you're dictating what they can and can't do in their own time with their own name, and you are giving them regular hours, etc., then they are an employee. They're not an independent contractor. And Mick Foley was sort of a little more polite with how he put it than I'm going to make it sound, but essentially said that they're totally wrong for what they're doing. He made a mention of, like, he's got a lot of time for Vince and WWE, but in this case they're wrong. And it just seems like this has become a bit of a hotbed of an issue now. And notably, and we mentioned it in All Out, even AEW have had a pop at this insane letter that's come from Vince. I know it's been heard that Paige has actually turned around and said, nope, she's not. She will not be removing a Twitch. She will carry on. Yeah. So, I mean, what are they going to do? She's not a day-to-day talent. They pull her in because she's a notable name. They need her more than she needs them right at this point, because she's not an active wrestler. So what are they going to do if she carries on? Do you know what I mean? She's in a better position than most for that, really. But, I mean, what do you make of this insanity?
I mean, it's mental. It is insane. Like, how can you say someone is an independent contractor, so they're not entitled to, all the benefits that an employee would get?
Like healthcare in such a risky profession, Vince.
Which like, look, WWE is like the fucking carnies, and it is so messed up. Like, no doubt Vince would. And he has done, and he does do. He pays for, like, people's surgeries and stuff like that, all out of his own back pocket. So he doesn't need to offer them health insurance and stuff because he covers it. But
until he takes a dislike to them and goes, no.
Well, exactly. But how backwards is it? And then to kind of go about this kind of, you can't do anything else outside of, our bubble and use your kind of name or anything like that. Which I don't know. It's mental. Like, I know we might come on to this. I think it might be one of your news articles, but there was a lot of conjecture around basically Lana being the straw that broke the camel's back on this, because I believe she did do something on TikTok with an energy drink or something.
I think that is why they're unhappy with Lana in particular, and we'll give a bit of detail on that. In fact, if you permit it, Carl, I'll give a bit of detail on that now. But it is essentially that she was promoting a product, and that is sort of the example I gave before, where it's a bit of a no-no, but that shouldn't be a blanket rule across the board for everybody. Now let's have a quick look. She had some sort of relationship with Bang energy drinks on her Instagram, and that was the straw that broke the camel's back, as it were. And to be honest, in some respects, I can kind of get behind that, and it's not like she was, in all fairness, it's her Instagram. So in some respects, I'm kind of on the fence with that one a little bit, because the rest of them they're not doing it in that way. Like Cameo especially is just their way of communicating with the fans, But that was a blatant, like, we're gonna give you something if you promote this. I kind of get them being on that, but at the same time, it's not like she was like deliberately there on Raw, like. So that was a drink. I want to clarify.
I was just wondering then. Just like, tell you what, Lana's storylines get increasingly Jesus. But yeah, no, I don't know. I think the whole thing is is a bit mental. I don't get it really. You would, for whatever reason, they don't like their own stars making something of themselves that WWE haven't manufactured. Like you've seen this with like Zack Ryder back in the day, the Internet Championship and stuff like that. Like if they don't come up with it and they don't like endorse it, they like, you know, in this example as well, they just don't want to know. Like if people are becoming
I remember
even more popular for like being Twitch streamers and getting all this, like it's so short-sighted because like
you know what
Twitch,
I really, sorry, just because you mentioned Twitch, I don't mean to interrupt, but what really baffles me as well is they used Twitch the other week.
yeah,
They let them use Twitch to build on
the storyline when it was Zelina and
the attack on Zelina.
Bianca.
And it's like, well, you've let them do that. How can you be against
Exactly.
it now?
But like it's so short-sighted of WWE to kind of, you know, they're already struggling in the demos and bringing in new fans and like the younger audience and stuff like that. And you know, Twitch, which like kids, they love it. Like they're getting their stars so much more exposure by them having their own Twitch channels, and now they're just gonna like.
See, this is
reduce that audience.
a clear sign of WWE behind the times. They don't understand or know what this is, so they don't want to know. Unless you're watching it on the old cable box, fuck off, right? This is so short-sighted of them in the sense of like, for me, I think they've got it backwards. I think they've got the cart before the horse, as it were, because the stars, they get made on the show, right? But they essentially get made off their own charisma most of the time. We've seen charisma vacuums not do well in WWE. So it's not like WWE are getting people over to spite themselves. They have to have that about them. But if your favorite wrestlers, essentially it's free publicity. If he's doing Twitches and he's doing cameos and stuff like that, and everyone's like, he's awesome, and then you tune in every week to see this guy who you now like have a proper like love for, and he said hello to me and all this kind of stuff, you know, that engagement is worth a lot to WWE, and they just don't see it. It's insane.
Yeah, it's great. Like they're proper shooting themselves in the foot with this. Like mental.
I mean, what's next? Are they going to, you know, convince themselves that they just own people and their names?
What a segue. I love it. I love it. So just, you know, when you thought it was bad enough that, you know, superstars couldn't use their WWE ring names and stuff in extracurricular activities, what do you do if you're John Cena and, you know, you want to start a Cameo service or you want to do a Twitch channel? Guess what? You can't, because Vince owns your own name. So I think it was Someone's Unearthed an interview from like 2006 on the Howard Stern show. And basically John Cena says that, yeah, absolutely, Vince McMahon owns his name and he gets a cut of all of his movies that he does. And he doesn't have a problem with it. So he's such a company guy. You know, he doesn't mind the fact that WWE owns his fucking birth name. You know, his kind of thought process is, well, before this, he was just a kid from, you know, Massachusetts and, you know, doing whatever. And now all of a sudden he's this megastar. So, yeah, absolutely.
I totally admire that, John, but fuck it. I mean, at what point are you going to say no? Like, oh, I never read my contract fully, but it turns out they own my kids.
Yeah. It's like, oh, what? Oh, yeah. So they own my wife. Yeah, okay, Vince. Yeah. Okay, go, honey, go.
You would
go to the
WWE
genetic jackhammer. Yeah.
It's bad. Did you see the interview as well?
I honestly haven't watched it.
No, it's fine. I actually went and watched the interview, and everyone was, when he mentioned it, they were so baffled because they kept like reiterating, and that's your government name, that's your name, and he's like, yeah, as weird as it sounds, like, you know, that's my name, but he does kind of own it, and he takes profit from John Cena's films, which just totally isn't. I'd love to know if that's true now, because bear in mind, back in 2006, John Cena was doing WWE branded films or small cameos in other films. He's like now in like Fast and Furious and bigger films. So I'd be curious to know if Vince is still getting a cut for fuck all.
Do you know what? It depends on whatever contract he's got signed with them. Like if he's renegotiated it, then maybe not. But I haven't heard anything about Cena's contract. It wouldn't surprise me if he's got one of those like lifetime contracts. So it's probably written in there forever, like Vince.
He's got no contract at all, but Vince has somehow got the copyright on his name. So he's like, yeah, they use that name, so now I'm having some money.
Well, exactly. It's like he's an independent contractor, but so WWE give them nothing, but Vince has everything, including his name. Fantastic.
And it's such a fucked up world, really, in the sense that not to go back away from the John Cena thing, but like, because a lot of people have come out and said like, oh, you'd be curious to see how well these sort of rulings and contracts stood up, if you challenge them. But it's not really about that. The reality of wrestling is like, if you get on Vince's bad side, then you're not going to get the screen time or the attention you need. He doesn't need a reason to do that to you. Do you know what I mean? What are you going to do to him for being a victim, a billionaire who's probably going to win? No one's going to want to fuck their own career up for fighting with him.
Well, exactly. Like it's yeah, batshit crazy is the most accurate way to describe the circumstances, I would say.
Yeah, but yeah, totally insane. So, Carl, you probably heard the sad news, and we'll let the audience know the sad news as well. Is that the Authors of Pain are no longer a part of WWE. They've been released. Now, joking aside, this is actually quite surprising. They were getting quite a heavy push with Seth Rollins and his faction. We had the unfortunate situation where I think it was Razor, or I hope I'm saying them right. They're spelt weird. So Razor, I don't know.
Razor Ramon? What?
Was it where Razor Ramon was injured? So so Akeem, the
African Dream.
So now again, is it? Did they say Razor or Razor? I'm gonna.
I think it's Razor or something.
Razor and Akam. Anyway, we'll go with that. So it was a bit of a strange situation where initially, because for me, like, they were in a faction with Seth, but they had to be on screen together. So when Razor was injured, Akam was sidelined as well. So we landed in a situation where you didn't see either of them on screen. And by all accounts, he has actually been. Well, I'll get onto that actually. Apparently, he's no longer injured, and he was fine before they released him. But that was WWE saying that. We did not release somebody who was out on injury. We are not cunts. That's basically what they're saying. We made sure he was fit and healthy, then we sacked him, so we're good guys.
Like, for me, it baffles me this, because there was an interview with Paul Ellering like not too long ago, who was like their manager in NXT, and they were thinking about bringing him back to manage them like very recently. So
yeah, I'd heard that suggestion as well.
Definitely a bit of a U-turn if they were talking all them plans, and the next minute it's like, yeah, you sack me.
I mean, it just shows you, because they are random as fuck. I mean, we're talking about splitting up Rollins and Murphy that haven't even got off the ground as a team yet anyway. Austin Theory's randomly back on NXT with no mention of it for some fucking reason. And the Authors of Pain are like not getting a chance to come back. So that's Rollins' faction totally fucked up, isn't it? That's that gone. That little bit of fun we had, gone. But this is potentially, I don't know how you feel about this, because this is one of them tinfoil hat kind of moments where these were sort of Paul Heyman guys. He was behind them getting a push on the main roster. And now, he lost his position on Raw and is now an on-screen talent again, as we now know. But do you think it is connected? Do you think this is why they're no longer part of the company? Because they're like, well, fuck you, Paul. I don't think it's a direct fuck you to Paul. You know what I mean? Like, do you think not having Paul Heyman fighting their corner has been the sort of the deciding factor?
I don't know, maybe. I'd like to think Triple H was probably over on them to some points to give them as much time as they got in NXT. It
seems like it just seems like Bruce has gone over and took over Raw, and he's gone, off your pop, no use for you guys.
Yeah, I don't know, because like you've still got the likes of Apollo, and you've still got the likes of who's it?
The other guy.
Yeah, the other guy.
Yeah, the other guy.
Do you only have a name in your head, and then you're about to say it, and then you completely forget? But yeah,
no, I tend to go for names on a screen, and I don't know how to say them. That's my approach.
But yeah, that was it. Aleister Black. So you've got Aleister Black, you've got Apollo, who, by all accounts, were Paul Heyman guys. And you've got Shayna Baszler as well, who's Paul Heyman gal. And there was a time where they were just kind of not getting used after the whole Paul thing, and then all of a sudden they're all three of them are quite prominent now, really, on TV. So I don't know, it's a weird one. You never can tell with them.
You can't, yeah. But no, I mean, I think it's a bit of a shame, because they were a decent monster tag team. Like, you don't see that very often, do you? Where they're both they're fucking huge. Like they worked really well as like the enforcers for Rollins, and it's a shame we never got to see more of that. And yeah, that's them. Do you think we could see them move to AEW in their future? They'll obviously have this 90-day no compete that they always all have. But do you think in 90 days we might see them turn up on AEW or Impact even?
I mean, I think we're going to see them somewhere. Obviously, AEW, their tag team division is awesome, so you can definitely see that. But then, TNA are trying their best to grow that as well with Gallows and Anderson as well. So
yeah, probably be a good, if you put them in and you push them enough in TNA, they'd probably be a good rivalry for them too. In all fairness.
Yeah, I definitely think we'll see them somewhere, but I don't know. They've not really had as much momentum or
McDonald's who'd have thought.
Yeah, Subway. But yeah, I don't know. Strange one, but I think we'll see them crop up somewhere. Hopefully, with a bit more momentum behind them. Because, like, if you think about it, you think of Zack Ryder, you think of FTR, you think of these other guys who've got released, and then they've kind of showed up in AEW, and they've had people are quite excited to see them. Like, will we get that with AEW?
I'll be honest with you. Like, I'm so over on FTR, particularly at the minute. But that's for All Out more than anything. But it is one of them where, like, especially with them being a tag team, like, without fear-mongering or whatever you call it, like, AEW have got a really good tag division at the minute. Would it be overkill? Like, could they thrive? Because they've got a lot of good tag teams there, a lot of good three-man bands as well, funnily enough. I mean, you don't always see them, like, in a 3-on-3, but, I mean, look at the Jurassic Express and stuff like that. You've got a lot of good teams there. So maybe it might not be the best position for them in that sense. But, I don't know, you never know, because they always seem to pull it out of the bag. So, Carl, I believe the next is yours. And I'm intrigued by this one.
Well, she's got legs and she knows how to use them.
They sacked her.
Stacey Keeble's at one point.
Was that her?
I think so. And then didn't Maria Kanellis have it? At one point
she had with legs like that. Maria Kanellis had by Zebrahead.
Yeah, okay.
I was thinking of the wrong song. My bad.
It's not about legs. I mean, he knows on the right legs. But yeah, so
one thing we know, Vince is a leg man, especially going off this promo.
Fucking hell, yeah. Yeah, so on SmackDown this week, there was a weird little vignette teaser of a woman in high heels, kind of with purple smoke, walking up and down, and like it looks like she had like a fur coat or something trailing behind her. So it's kind of like, it looks like there's going to be some new debuting star. So kind of a lot of speculation around like who it could be. Like my initial thought was potentially Chelsea Green, which I know a lot of people have.
I mean, we've not seen her in a while, to be fair. That could make a bit of sense. It'd be a hell of a gimmick change, though, because this looks like a bit more of a. I don't know how to put it politely, but like, when you don't expect them to come in and be a legitimate women's wrestler, you expect them to be more eye candy, mud wrestling kind of wrestler. Just from that vignette alone, I'm like, this is probably going to be more of a gimmicky, non-wrestler kind of thing. But Chelsea Green was obviously a really good wrestler in NXT, so it'd be interesting. Yeah. If it was her, I'd be quite surprised.
Yeah, I think that the thing that's making me think it was like the fair coat and stuff like that, and she was always kind of a bit more of a, like upper class kind of character, wasn't she? So maybe
to be honest, I think it's more the production of the vignette, which really didn't give us much. So they still got plenty of room for it to be her. It was just the way it was put across. I'm like, okay, it's kind of like when they done. Remember when Lana briefly had that gimmick where she was like some sort of ballroom dancer or some shit?
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah, they sort of tried to pull it away from the Russian thing. It kind of reminds me of that, and I'm like, okay, so that's going to be quite superficial and not really a wrestler. But again, purely speculative from that 30-second clip, if that.
Yeah, I mean, it was random, wasn't it? Especially in like today's WWE product, it was kind of like, well,
so randomly placed why? As well. Yeah, it just happened, and you're like,
exactly,
okay,
exactly.
Did I change channels?
Well, to be honest, I was a bit like, what? Because I saw purple smoke, and I was like, shit, they're bringing Velveteen Dream up, and then I saw high heels, and was like, that could still be Dream, and then I was like, oh no, yeah, it's not Dream.
You saw smooth legs, and you're like, could still be Dream.
Could definitely still be Dream. But yeah, so my initial thoughts was either Velveteen Dream or Chelsea Green, but I know a lot of other speculation online has been like people think it could be Carmella, which is an interesting one. I don't know why. I don't think.
I don't mean this in as nasty ways as it's going to sound, but that would not be interesting. I think, oh, that video was for repackaging Carmella. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So I can't
Almost the
see
most
that.
boring result he could have done. I've heard some speculation it could be, is it Eve Marie?
Yeah, so Eva Marie was another one potentially coming back.
I said her name wrong as well. I'm not having any luck today.
Which would be interesting because obviously she was very vocal about stepping away and doing something else. But I know she has been quoted recently saying that she would come back. So maybe it's because she already is coming back and that was her vignette. And then
They all come back.
There was Vanessa Bourne, who I don't really know anything of. I believe she's an NXT star, but no idea who she is.
No, not a clue.
And then a little bit more outlandish is people think it could be Tessa Blanchard, which would be a really odd way to introduce her.
It would, but people are jumping on that because obviously she's no longer with TNA, and how fucked up. Do you know what that? That could be something WWE do, couldn't it? Let's be honest.
I mean, it definitely could, but
she's gone from being such an empowered, like winning the world title in TNA to this. That they could do it just to be cunts, to be honest with you. Not that she'd be on board with it, but you know what I mean. Like it'd be purely based on that vignette. Like it seems almost out of character for her as well. I know they're just speculating it because she's no longer with TNA, and it's heavily sort of suggested that WWE might be the next step. But yeah, that'd be a hell of a gimmick change for her as well.
Yeah, definitely. So who knows? But it's definitely an intriguing one. Hopefully, it is someone who's going to be, somewhat important in the women's division and not just some shitty gimmick that isn't even a wrestler kind of thing. But yeah, all remains to be seen.
It could be like the Hacker, and we just never see the legs again, and we don't know what the fuck the video was about.
Maybe it's the Hacker's legs. It's going to go a little bit higher next week, and they've just got a laptop, and they're like, yeah.
The truth will be revealed. That came out of left field.
You know what? Like, I'm surprised they kind of dropped the ball there. With the Hacker thing, they could have been like, the truth will be revealed, and it's just like our truth, like, oh, not me, my bad, and just fucks off. Like,
nice. Yeah. I like it. That's see. What are they doing? All right and all around. Clearly the Hacker could have even been linked to Retribution because we know they're a bunch of nerds.
Oh, exactly. They're just there, aren't they? And the computer's like, turn the lights down.
Exactly. Like they could have explained that by the Hacker being part of Retribution, being the one who fucked with all the stuff.
Get out of my room, Mom!
I love it. Yeah, I don't know how to segue from that. But the next one we got is WWE sort of confirming a push for Naomi. And this is as a result of these constant hashtags. What was her hashtag again? Justice for I can't even remember now. But basically that she needed a push, right? And to be fair, they've booked a shock in the last few times we've seen her. We saw her in the losing end of a triple set. We saw her in that stupid karaoke thing. We saw her just losing outright to Lana, which is not an issue because I do rate Lana as a wrestler. But, when you're like, none of this is stuff to push Naomi. But WWE have essentially said that, they're hearing the outcry from social media and from the fans. And, basically, hang in there. We're going to do it. That being said, we've not seen any suggestion that they're pushing it in any sort of direction, really. But apparently the heroes, guys, they totally understand where we're coming from. Which, to be fair, again, like, I'm not as bothered about her getting a push. I think the ideal situation, and you never know, this coming Raw could prove it because it seems they're hinting at a new member of the Hurt Business on this coming Raw. They've WWE put out a post on their Instagram saying, who do you think could be a good addition to the Hurt Business, etc. And a lot of the comments were suggesting Naomi or Trinity Fatu by her actual handle. But I think that would be the best move. I think that is the best way to push it, is to put her part of that dominant Hurt Business faction. Move her to Raw, get her away from the people that she's losing to all the time. And, I don't know why I feel this way, because they have got some good stars, but Raw seems really lacking on the women's side compared to SmackDown.
Yeah, I agree with that.
In terms of how over they are.
The only thing that makes me think it won't happen is if they move her to Raw, then when Jimmy Uso gets back from injury, like he's obviously married to her. So like, what would that mean? Like, would the Usos split up? Would Jay stay on SmackDown? Would like the Usos stay on SmackDown? Trinity would be on her own.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's too much of an issue.
I mean,
at all
Naomi.
with them in because
I definitely am not one of those people who calls them by their real names.
Yeah,
definitely not.
But no, like they're all working out of the performance center at the minute, so it's not quite as difficult as when they're on tour and they're all traveling all the time. Because it's nice for them to travel together, because they are married. But I think this change is coming for the Usos anyway. I think, and we'll talk about it on SmackDown. But the results of SmackDown would suggest that there's going to be something going on. And we're probably going to see The Rock back at some point. Fuck it, I'll throw all the speculation out there. The whole Anoa'i family is going to end up at a Royal Rumble. That Roman will win,
And there still won't be as many of them as the fucking Mysterios who get a fucking new member every week. But we'll come on to that as well.
We'll come on to that. So so a nice quick one, Carl. But it looks like Naomi might be getting a push, and it'd be interesting to see how they go about it.
Interesting indeed. So the next one I had was going to be about Lana, but we covered that one. So I was thinking something else popped into my head was, I don't know whether you saw this week's Talking Smack, but I saw a snippet of it, and Cesaro was interviewed and kind of asked, like, how come he hasn't been given a push? And his reaction was interesting, to be honest. Like, he seemed really, really pissed off, and he was kind of like, it was almost like a little like CM Punk style kind of pipe bomb promo where he was like, yeah, I don't know, what does it take? All I can do is come here and do my best week after week. Someone gives me a yodeling gimmick, I'll make it happen. Someone gives me fucking this gimmick, I'll make it happen. And what more can you do? It's like the definition of someone who's insane is doing the same thing over and over again, and not and expecting different results. So all he can do is change, but he's not going to change the fact that he'll always turn up and give everything to it all. And I was just like, holy shit! Like, it was a good promo, and I was like,
it's really interesting. Like, we've seen Talk Smack has always done so much better than Raw Talk. Like, do you remember? Like, they really pushed the heat between Miz and Daniel Bryan.
That was
on Talk Smack as well.
That was mental.
It's utilized so much better. If this is a work, then they've made good use of Talking Smack. If it's not a work, which I'll be honest, I think some elements of it must be true frustration, because he doesn't get, like I mentioned last week, that he's been on the main roster the same length of time as every member of the Shield and has had significantly less opportunity. And that's got to annoy you a little bit.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Especially when you are the type of man, and he's clearly said he's the type of man, he'll whatever he's told to do, he'll do, and he'll give it his all, and he'll get it over. And we've seen it. We've seen him, like, the Bar became a significant tag team out of nowhere. He's doing the same again with Shinsuke. He seems to get put in tag teams a lot, but he does put a lot of effort into to his craft. And there's got to be some truth to what he's saying there.
He gave a bit of insight as well, saying that, like, WWE will say to him, like, oh, you can't do this move, you can't do that move, or, oh, do you know that move that you were doing last week? We've given that to so and so now, so please don't use it, stuff like that. And it's like, you know what I mean? So, and its kind of reaction to that is, okay, you tell me I can't do this move, I'll come up with 3 other ones that are even better, and I'll make them like the best moves. And it's just like, I really want this guy. I know, like, I really want this guy to catch a break. Like, literally, he could be phenomenal. Like, I would love to see, like, him and Drew McIntyre at, like, the top of a card. Like, what a fucking epic match that would be. So yeah, I'd love that to happen, but I don't know. I get more fearful that he's never going to realize his potential while he's at WWE.
I think he needs to leave. I think classic examples of people who probably should have left, and I don't know where Cesaro is on his contract position at the minute, but he really wants to take note of these ones. And I mentioned it again last week, but I'm going to moan about it again, is the likes of Drew Gulak, who is now signed as, he's getting his regular contract with WWE, he's getting his money, he's getting paid. What's he getting otherwise? Because they've kept him there, they're not using him. That's what Cesaro is potentially saddled with for however long, and if he renews, it'll be the same again. I think if he wants to, and he clearly has a passion for the business, I think he does need to go elsewhere.
Yeah, I agree.
So, speaking of mad shit that WWE do, right, WWE have recently filed a trademark. I say recently, 1st of September they filed this trademark. And it's a worrying one for me, I'll be honest with you, Carl, because they filed a trademark for Wobbly Walrus. and there's they filed it under goods and services apparently, but the thinking, the speculation around is that this could be connected to Bray Wyatt. Sorry, I'm spoiling SmackDown a little bit, but he mentioned on SmackDown this week that he's bringing a new friend to the Funhouse because obviously the Fiend lost his favorite toy to Roman, and apparently we're not going to challenge that again. I'll moan about that. I'll moan about that later, but. He's bringing a new friend to the Funhouse, and everyone was like, "Oh, it's going to be Alexa." We're pushing it, and they are clearly doing something with this whole Alexa being fascinated with the Fiend thing. But no, it seems like it might be Wobbly Walrus. My other speculation is potentially that this is going to be some insensitive weight joke, and it's going to be something they use for Otis, because let's face it, they just keep doing food and weight jokes at him anyway. They might change his finisher to the Wobbly Walrus. I don't know.
Do you know what I was thinking? I was thinking the same, like a weight thing. I was thinking it was going to be Paul Heyman.
Again, it could. That's the sort of humor they go for, and we've seen them go for quite a lot. So this isn't necessarily a definite that it's going to be something to do with the Funhouse. I just think because obviously we've got Ramblin' Rabbit and so on like that, I think they just think Wobbly Walrus is going to be another puppety character on the Funhouse, which, yeah, it sounds a bit like one, doesn't it?
It does, but I can completely see a Paul Heyman puppet. I think Vince would think it was really good shit, and he would love every opportunity to take the piss out of Paul Heyman as much as he can. So
yeah, and then
why
fire
not
him
make
again,
him into a
because
puppet?
Heyman and Bischoff are in a unique club where they've both been. I don't want to say bankrupted. I don't know if that's the right word, but they've both had their businesses sort of squashed by Vince, and then been fired by him multiple times. It's a unique club to be in. That I
It
don't
wouldn't
think,
surprise
other than
me
those
at
two, I don't
all.
think anyone else have been in them.
It wouldn't surprise me at all if it is a Paul Heyman puppet, and literally the camera pans up, and Vince McMahon is actually controlling that puppet, just to basically be like, Paul Heyman, you are my puppet, in the most literal Vince McMahon way possible. I could completely see that, if I'm honest. But yeah, weird one. It definitely sounds like a Firefly character, doesn't it? But
you know what? I think you might have even put things together there that I sincerely hope that the Fiend isn't done with Roman, and it seems like he is, and we'll talk about it on the SmackDown thing. But maybe it is going to be a Firefly Funhouse character, like you say. That is a play on Paul Heyman, and it's actually going to fuel the potential feud going forward. I love the Vince thing. I don't think the Vince thing has happened, but I think your guess might be actually a really good guess.
It's definitely going to be interesting, because with what we know now from SmackDown, it doesn't look like it's going to be the Fiend taking on Roman Reigns anytime soon.
No, we've got much more bigger A-lister, fantastic fucking superstars for him to go against.
Of course we do. So yeah, I don't know. It's going to be interesting if they do try and keep something alive in this feud, or whether they just go, yeah, we've got the title back on Roman. Let's just forget the Fiend was ever involved with this. Who knows?
Sadly. I mean, to be honest, I don't think it's going to damage the Fiend too much. No, we'll talk about it on SmackDown. I'm going to stop right
now. Okay, so then my last one, just a bit of a small update really, but AEW have now announced their next pay-per-view. We haven't even spoke about this one yet, but they've already announced the next one, which is going to be Full Gear again, and it's going to be on Saturday, November the 7th. So I just think it's insane that we're already coming up to our second Full Gear. It does not feel like a year ago when we had that Moxley Omega unsanctioned match. That was just fucking insane. Do you know what I mean?
It's unreal. It's weird how fast time's moving with AEW. They're becoming more and more established by the day. And as much as people have got some gripes with them at the minute, you can't deny they're definitely rooted in the wrestling industry now.
Oh God, yeah. I just can't believe it. It does not feel like a year, and what a year it's been as well. Just insane storytelling. So
definitely
looking forward to Full Gear.
Indeed, same here. Right, so the last one I've got, Carl, is AJ Styles on his Twitch. Oh, Vince is going to be shaking his fist at you, AJ. He got talking about The Rock's recent, which, funnily enough, I didn't put in the news, but The Rock has recently mentioned that him and his family have all tested positive for COVID-19. Obviously, we wish them well with everything. And AJ was essentially doing the same thing. He's fought with him, etc. And during this comment and discussion about the Rock situation, he actually mentioned that a lot of people don't know this, but I tested positive a few weeks ago, which is interesting because, as you might recall, there was a thing with WWE where they told everyone to keep stum about whether you tested positive or not. And there was only ever revealed that a number of people had tested positive, and they were never really giving anything away. And I actually don't recall not seeing AJ, so that's concerning.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's been on SmackDown every week. So
exactly.
What?
So I don't know if he might have just been playing a bit loose with the term a few weeks ago, and it was actually before he moved over to SmackDown. Maybe a little bit of a gap then. But yeah, it's hard to see a gap where he was gone enough to isolate. But yeah, so apparently he tested positive for COVID-19, which might suggest, and it is all speculative, but it might suggest that WWE were a bit looser with the rules than maybe they suggested they were.
That's proper interesting, that though, because literally he hasn't missed a beat, has he? Like he's literally
No.
been there every week. So,
and I don't think he. Sorry, I'll just have a quick look at the article again. I don't think he's actually offered a specific any specifics more than saying a few weeks ago. Yeah, tested positive a few weeks ago. It may have been a month ago he's put, but even so, it's like, well, that would still put you on SmackDown in the title scene, even.
Yeah,
been fighting Riddle. He's been fighting Jeff. He's been fighting who's the guy who took the title from in the first place? Shinsuke.
Yeah,
Shinsuke. He's had a lot of matches, and you're like, well, yeah, you've definitely been there for well over a month. So yeah, that's worrying.
I'm surprised that hasn't got more attention. Jesus.
I know it's a strange one because it sort of almost got a little bit of a pass, but again, whilst Lana was the straw that broke the camel's back, and probably the bigger concern for Vince in terms of like promotions and sponsors and that, I don't think Vince would have been too pleased about this sort of thing being mentioned under a format that he had no control over. So this is another reason Vince hates Twitch.
Absolutely, I don't think it's going to have quite the same. I don't know what his Twitch username is, but I don't think Alan Jones is going to be the.
I think his username on Twitch is definitely not AJ Honest. Yeah.
So yeah, proper interesting.
Certainly is. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the Ringside Report.